Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Schellenfeld with the International Grief Institute and Grief Diaries, and this is Moments of Hope, a show dedicated to featuring people who have turned pain into purpose to do wonderful things in the world. And it's also a show dedicated to having the most important conversation we're not having. We're talking about death and grief, but when we're brave, we make other people brave, and that's how shifts occur and trends are born. Tonight, we're getting very, very brave. Tears are welcome on this show because it means that you have a heart. And so with that being said, I want to introduce tonight's guest, Dawn Tufte. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So Dawn, you and your husband live in Carrington, North Dakota. And almost 2 years ago, February 25th, 2017, your world literally became on fire when faulty wiring in the wall caused a fire in the front bedroom of your home. Your husband and you woke up. Your husband tried to save your 3 children, and he couldn't. And all 3 of your kids perished in the fire. Take us back to that night. What do you remember?
Oh, Linda, I remember everything, actually. I remember waking up. It was around 4:30 in the morning, and I walked out into the hallway, which is something I would never do at that time in the morning. And all I could see was black, and it was the smoke that I seen. And I screamed at Brandon, that the house is on fire, and just like that, I was trying to get our friend out and Brandon took off to the living room to try and get the kids out, and that he couldn't make it past the kitchen table because of how hot it was. And so he ran back, grabbed his phone, tossed it at me, and I called 911, and he proceeded to run around to the front of the house, broke one of the kids' bedroom windows, and tried getting in through there. But since when he did that caused the flames to come into the kids' bedroom.
Okay.
And so then that's all we could see at that point was just flames coming out of the windows, and breaking the one window caused every single other window to ricochet, and that it was like just a chain reaction. Every window was breaking.
To shatter.
And by the time they just shattered. And by the time the fire trucks got there, I would venture to say that the flames were all the way back to our bedroom already.
Wow.
And I mean, it went unbelievably fast. That I remember sitting in my husband's truck because he moved it so the fire trucks could get at the flames better. And it sounded like there was gunshots going off. And here it was the tires on my vehicle, which was still parked in the driveway. The tires were popping, but it sounded like gunshots.
From the heat.
Yeah, from the heat, and you could just hear the windows, shattering on the van, and it was like everything, like it was just time literally stood still at that point.
And so who alerted the firefighters that there were children in the home?
Our friend called 911 for us, and I screamed into the phone what our address was because he didn't know what the exact address was, and I screamed into the phone that our children are in there and we couldn't get them out. But my heart knew they were already gone.
Is that right?
When I remember when I seen the smoke, I knew already that they were gone. And I was hoping better, but
yeah. Did you have any inkling the night before when you went to bed that when you woke up your life would be drastically different?
No.
It was just a normal night.
Yeah. I came home from work, we played cards like we always do, and then we went to bed, and I suppose it wasn't even 2 hours later because I know it was like 2 o'clock in the morning when we went to bed, and not even 2 hours later the house is on fire.
And so at what point did they tell you that the children didn't make it? Even though you knew in your heart.
I would have to say when I left with the ambulance up to the hospital, the BIA, I believe it was, or the BCI, BIA, that they came in and they had to talk to us and just to make sure that, no, you did not actually kill your kids and that was my first reaction was we didn't kill them and that I swear we did not set this fire and they said we know, it's just we have to talk to you no matter what because lives were lost.
So so you feared momentarily that they were thinking that you were a suspect. Is that right?
For a second, yeah. I think,
oh my
but
gosh.
they told me too that it's natural when this happens for that person to actually feel like it was their fault, and to this day I still feel like we could have done something to change this. And
I think that's common for us parents. How can we not go over the woulda, shoulda, coulda? Children are heart and soul, and they rely upon us, to protect them. And so when something happens to them, through no fault of our own, it's natural for us to feel the responsibility. So viewers, I just want to share with you that if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to share with Dawn or ask Dawn, feel free to type it in the thread and we will try to get to some of them. Okay. And I see that we've got some comments already, and I'll check for a question here in just a moment. But Dawn, I want to ask you, over the past 2 years, you're coming up on the second anniversary here just next week.
Yep.
And what's the hardest time of day for you?
Nighttime.
Yeah.
That my brain doesn't want to shut off, and that's when I think the most, and that's when the tears come, of course, and it just kind of goes off in a whirlwind, and then right away in the morning, my first reaction is, oh, I got to get the kids to school, and then it's like, oh no, I don't do that no more.
Right, you're kicking the gut every morning.
Yeah.
So what do you do for sleep? Are you under the care of a doctor?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I have to take a medication every night to help me sleep, and sometimes that doesn't even do the trick. There's been plenty of nights when I'm still up at 4:00 in the morning.
And do you work?
Yep.
And so do you work full time, 8 to 5, or part-time?
Generally, yeah. It's kind of more part-time at this point. Okay. After I'm done with my college classes, I will be hopefully going back to full-time.
So you're in college right now as well as working?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's incredible. Very inspiring. So where are you at in your college degree? How far away are you from graduating?
I will graduate in May.
Oh my God. And what's your degree?
Business administration, specifically in management.
My goodness. So you have done an excellent job giving yourself a reason to get out of bed. I don't know about you, but I remember in that early stretch of time fighting getting out of bed. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I had to create something for myself that got me out of bed. And you intuitively have already tapped into that.
And then at right around the 1 year mark, I want to say it was like a couple weeks prior to the 1 year, we decided to get a dog. And we named him after our kids.
So what's his name?
Sam.
The initials?
Yep, the initials.
I love it.
Oddly enough, he is the same breed that we had prior to the fire. That because our family dog also died in the fire, along with the kids and that, and he's the exact same breed. And that the only difference is our previous dog was a female and he's male and he's a lot bigger.
What kind of dog?
He's half German Shepherd and half Black Lab.
Oh, that's a great mix. Great
Yes.
mix. You're kind of getting the best of both worlds. Oh, fantastic.
And
so
the only
your
fault is that he wants to play 24 hours a day.
he's just another one of our kids, just comes with
Pretty
4
much.
legs too. So your husband was injured in the fire. He suffered burns over a part of his body and was flown to a burn center. What was that like for you? Having to leave the scene, knowing your 3 children are there, and your husband, his life is threatened, and not knowing whether he's going to survive, and going toward the hospital to be with him. How is he today?
He is 100% healed.
Wow. Good for him. Good for him. Physically healed.
Yeah, physically healed.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. I'm glad.
Cold anymore, but he doesn't like the extreme cold anymore. And when it's extremely hot, he does not like that either. But he's never been one to really care for a whole lot of heat, anyways.
Oh, because his body can't regulate the temperature as well.
Not really, no.
Yeah. So I'm going to see if we've got any questions for you. So you're certainly getting a lot of hugs tonight and some prayers, and that's wonderful. Thank you, viewers, for surrounding Dawn with hugs and prayers. Those are very powerful. Let me see. Okay, so I don't see any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in there in the thread, and we will get to them. And so, Dawn, what have you found brings you comfort? You faced the unimaginable. And those of us who have lost one child, it is a huge fear that we might lose another child. But there are a few people like yourself who have lost 2 or more or all of their children. And so what brings you comfort?
I know that they're in a better place. As hard as it is to comprehend that, I know that they are in a better place. I know that they do come and visit, and that we have gotten signs that they are here.
Oh my goodness!
That they just gave us a son a couple days ago.
And what was that?
They visited me in a dream.
All
3 of them, I could hear them just talking and playing, just by themselves. I wasn't able to see them, but I could hear them. Okay. And I did not want to wake up. And that
dream visits are powerful and vivid, but the flip side of that is when we wake up. Again, it's like that kick in the gut. Tell our viewers the names and ages of your children.
So Alex had just turned 11 a couple days prior to the fire. Melody was 8, and Spencer was 7.
Okay. Yeah. And so they gave you a dream visit. So do you have strong faith?
I lost a lot of my faith.
That's very common. So don't be hard on yourself. God has big shoulders. And a lot of people, when they lose a child, they feel angry at God. They do. They're angry that God took their child and, felt like God made a mistake and, what was the point of that and such. And so it's very, very common. Have you found much support from a church?
I think if I was willing to go back to the church, I would have a lot of support there.
Good.
But initially, when I tried going back at first, I felt very outcasted by the church.
Mm.
I didn't feel like I belonged anymore. And that when I would sit down in the pew, it was like everyone would go out of the way to sit nowhere near me. And that, so there was like this big circle around me. And it was like, okay, I really feel out of place here now. And
Yeah.
so I quit going.
I
And
don't mean to laugh, but that's something experienced by all bereaved mothers. No matter how many kids we've lost, suddenly we're the black sheep in the family, where people find it very awkward to be around us. They don't know what to say. And the truth is, there's nothing they can say, but they don't know that. They feel it's hard for them to see us in so much pain, and they want to say something, that brings us comfort. And the truth is, if something would have brought us comfort, we would have said it to ourselves a long time ago. And so just a hug, just to sit with us and even, pat our shoulder or pat our knee and listen to us rant, rave, repeat ourselves, hold that sacred space for us. That's what they can do, but they don't know that. And so it becomes very uncomfortable. So they give us a wide berth.
yeah,
And
there's a gal
so.
at the church that's been going out of her way to invite me out to like coffee and whatever, and we just sit there and talk. And she actually lost her husband last year, and so we share each other's grief in that. And she asked me, like, have you ever felt like this, or have you ever felt that, and I'm like, yep, yep. I still feel like that a lot, and and she asked me, how I felt around like certain holidays and that, and for her last year facing the first Christmas without her husband, and I'm asking, how did you do this and that, and so it helps to talk about it. That she talks about her husband all the time, and I can talk about my kids as much as I want. She doesn't care, and she loves hearing stories about my kids.
Oh, you're both holding the sacred space for each other, because shared sorrow is half the sorrow, and it helps. It when we get to talk about our loss, it helps us to process, and that processing is critical to our healing. So, did you ever feel suicidal in the aftermath?
Yeah, I hit a breaking point the very first Thanksgiving. And that I got through that day, and then the next day I just kind of checked out. And I remember sitting at the top of the stairs contemplating if I should load my husband's gun or not. And that because I just did not want to go on with my life anymore.
Did you tell anyone?
I talked to Brandon about it, and told him, after the fact and that, and I told him, I was like, I don't know what exactly stopped me, other than the fact that I know that my kids would not want that. And that was part of it, stopping me, was I know they would not want that.
I know that it's very awkward for us to talk about, thinking of suicide after losing a child, yet it's very, very common. I felt that same way. And I remember thinking that the pain was so great, I couldn't survive it. I didn't want to survive it.
Yep.
And yet people, they look at you in horror, like, how could you say such a thing? You have so much to live for. But when you're in that much pain and agony, all you want is for it to stop. That's all. And so what we don't know when we're in that moment is that eventually the rawness softens. And I think that's really important for people to know when they're in that place, is that it won't always feel that way. But I remember when I felt that way, I didn't have anyone saying to me, you're going to be okay. It won't always feel this bad. And so I like to be really vocal about that and let you know that one day it won't feel so raw. So I'm glad that you didn't complete the suicide. And I mean, here you are, even though the pain is still raw and fresh, here you are sharing your story with strangers around the world you'll never meet. And to me, the fact that you get out of bed is incredibly courageous. And I'm grateful, because if you can survive, you give hope to others that they can too. So thank you for that. That's a gift you're giving people that you've never met. And I'm very, very grateful. And so with regards to suicide, did you sought help right away?
Yeah, I was seeing a therapist prior to that too.
Yeah.
The first person that I seen, he actually made me feel like it was my fault that my kids died, because he had extra work to do. He had to go counsel the students at the school. And so I seen him 2 times, and both times he made me feel like I was such a burden to bring this onto him. I'm like, okay, we're done.
Yeah. Good for you.
And I talked to my doctor, told him what was going on, and I asked, is there anyone else I can see? And so I started seeing a gal that I can either go to Jamestown or she comes to Carrington, and I, now I only see her like every couple months, because that's just kind of where I'm at. But initially it was probably every couple weeks.
And you found it helpful?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good.
And
You know, people,
she had much information for me and whatever, and dealing with grief.
and so you're also getting support outside of that, because I met you last year at a national conference, the Compassionate Friends, or was it ADEC? Trying to remember.
No, it was Compassionate Friends.
Okay. Yeah. And so you are taking steps to find comfort and understanding in all the different pockets and resources that's out there. I think one of the hardest things for bereaved parents when they find themselves on this path is they don't realize that there is stuff out there, because it's not something that you're versed in, right? You kind of get thrown in. And so finding the resources often takes more energy than we have. And so when you discover, oh, there are other people out there like me, and you start tapping into the different resources, it's incredible. When you meet people who speak your lost language, a lot of comfort takes place in that. So good for you. Good for you. How's it been in your community?
The community has been great. Last year we did a community balloon release on the 1 year mark, and it kind of blew me away seeing everyone there. And that it, kind of knocked the breath out of me when I seen how many people were at the funeral. And that we decided not to do any more balloon releases, and that just because, it's going to get to the point where no one's going to want to come anymore. And I understand that. And that, but we still have a lot of support from this community in that.
Good. And what about at work?
Work has been really good to, work-wise. She does work with me a lot on this. That she understands there's certain days that I just, like the kids' birthdays and that's a really hard day for me to be around anyone. The anniversary date, that's another date that I don't want to be around anyone.
Yeah, that's the day to hibernate.
And so that's why I'm actually off this entire week, is because we have our oldest son's birthday. He would have been turning 13. And then the anniversary right after that. And
so this next week is going to be even more challenging than normal. So viewers, I invite you to join me in holding Dawn close to your heart and in your prayers as she faces this coming week. The anniversary of the death of our child and children is painful, more than words can ever say. And the birthdays as well. We just weathered our daughter's birthday last week, actually. And, I cried myself to sleep the night before, and I hadn't done that for a few years. And so it just goes to show that with grief, there's no rhyme or rhythm to it. It's, the grief dance. One day we take a step forward, one day we take 2 steps back. It's not this nice and tidy linear path. It's kind of more like the hokey pokey all the way around.
Yeah.
So and we have 2 left feet.
I feel like I can just completely function in society, and then there's days when I'm just go away.
Yeah, like we've got 2 left feet, 2 left thumbs, nothing fits.
Yep.
So what are some of your triggers?
Seeing kids around my kids' ages,
Mm.
and that, especially if they're blonde haired, that really, really gets me. And that I find myself getting jealous of the fact that my sisters are now grandparents, and I was looking forward to that someday. That won't happen. And that the very beginning of school, that's kind of a trigger for me. When I walk into a store now, especially if I walk into Walmart and I see Valentine's, Christmas, stuff, and just seeing all the stuff out and knowing that we don't buy anything for them anymore, and that
Right.
it breaks my heart all over again. The other day we were at Walmart and we came across this deal that we had picked up for our son for his birthday, and it was wrapped in our bedroom, and that the day of the fire was supposed to be his birthday party too. And so he didn't get to open his gifts from us. And we came across the thing that we were going to get him, or that we did get him that, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Let's go. And that it just,
yeah,
I'm completely emotionally checked out at that point.
Sure. And so I'm going to check to see if we've got some questions. So Cletus Cock asks a question that I'm sure you have been asked. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because it's something that is often said to bereaved parents. And people mean well, but they often say you can have another child. And Cletus, your question is, have you thought about having another child, even if you adopted one or fostered one? So I'm going to let you answer that from your heart.
Well, I'm not physically able to have any more children at all. We did look into fostering a child, and with the intention to adopt one, and we looked more at our situation as a family of just me and my husband, and we decided that we just were not a good fit for the foster kids, because we're dealing with our own pain and our own grief, and we didn't know how we were going to be able to help these other children who are coming from most likely a bad situation in the first place, and then try to get them to understand why we have pictures of these other kids, why we go out to the cemetery on certain days, who are these these headstones, who are these children, and it's not something that we want to do, and that
Sure.
we just don't feel like we'd be good parents for a foster child.
Sure. And Cletus, I appreciate you asking that question, because that is something that bereaved parents hear a lot. And people mean well when they ask it, and each of our answers are going to be different. And I think it's important for people to hear Dawn's answer. It's not one size fits all, but Dawn, you articulated it beautifully. It's not a simple thing to think about having another child. No matter how that child comes into your life, a family comes in many forms. And so it's not about that. It's more about the trauma that you've gone through, and that it takes a lot of energy to heal. And it's exhausting to heal. And a child requires a lot of our time and energy.
Yep.
So it's so I appreciate her courage to ask that question, and I appreciate your courage to answer that question. So because I'm sure you've heard it already.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the most painful things people have said to you?
Um, I've lost my parent, so I know how you feel. Well, my dog just died, so I get it. Those are some of my favorite ones. Right after the kids died, I had gotten a post. I got someone, that sent me a message saying, "Well, you can just have more kids," and it's like, no, we can't just have more kids. It doesn't work like that,
Right.
And yeah, but yeah, that's kind of some of my favorites. Is well, my dog died, so I understand what it's like, and I do get where people are coming from, that their pets are their family too. Our dog is basically our child now too. We got to take care of
Same
it.
for us.
That
Same
is,
for us.
he is our child. That he gets spoiled
Yeah.
rotten by too.
And people mean well. They do
Yes.
mean well. It's hard for them to see us in so much pain, and it's human nature to want to fix it. So they want to make suggestions in hopes of easing our pain. And it's one person doesn't replace another. And so widows often are people ask them, "Are you going to start dating soon? You can always find another husband." And they mean well. They really, really do. But when you're, processing grief and trying to find the energy to heal, because grief is a very long journey. Most of us, it's lifelong. And we've got this societal notion that it's a few months and then you're kind of back to normal. And so, when they say you can have another child or you can meet another husband or a wife, again, it's because they don't want to see us so sad. That's all. They don't realize how much it wounds us. So yeah, I think the statement people said to me that was hardest for me, and I know this sounds really petty, but when people said to me, "You look so strong. You're so strong. I don't know if I could do it," and I remember. Don't judge me, but I remember it's like the next person who tells me that, I swear I'm going to slug them. I've never slugged a person in my life, but that was the one statement to me that really got under my skin. And the reason why is because I felt like I was a fraud. If only they looked under the hood, they would see the hot mess that I was. It took a lot of effort to pretend I was normal.
That's exactly how I feel, now, is if they actually seen what was under the hood, they would realize that I'm not actually okay. That I'm like one second away from having a complete meltdown right in front of you. And
I'm trying all I can not to.
Yeah. I hear that a lot, is, you're so strong, or I couldn't imagine what you're going through. And I just tell them, you know what, you're right. And I don't want you to. I don't want anyone to know what this is really like.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? We really don't want them to know. There's no words in our language or any language that can explain what this journey is like. And I remember when I first lost Allie, our daughter, I remember thinking that this is what hell on earth really means. I did. I really felt like I was in hell. Hell wasn't someplace down there. I was in it. And that's how it
says that a lot now, that like we're living in our own little personal hell on earth now.
Yeah. But what I want viewers who are also in those early stages of grief to know that it won't always feel that way. And that's something that I found hard to believe when I was in the first stretch, is that I thought that I was always going to feel absolutely nothing but pure sadness, that I would never again experience joy, laughter, beauty. And that was my biggest fear. And with all kinds of, doing things for myself, and through a series of steps, I discovered joy and beauty again to my world. And I'd give it all back to have my daughter, yes, but my life is full of many collateral blessings that wouldn't come about any other way. And so in the early phases, when you feel like you will never get out of that hell, one day you'll look back and you'll say, okay, I got out. It doesn't mean that you'll ever get over losing your children, because we don't get over a loss. We learn to move forward with our loved ones in our heart. And that's hard for people to understand, but you learn to balance the sadness in your heart by embracing moments of joy and such. And so, talking about fear, because my fear was that I would always be in the belly of hell, and I was only 43 years old when I lost my daughter. And so in my mind, I'm thinking I've got 50 years of this hell. I can't do that, right? And so what do you fear?
I fear that I'm going to be a disappointment in some way to my children, and that I am scared to die, and that I ate, like, I was like a grief eater basically, and so I gained a lot of weight after this happened, and now I'm trying to reverse it and lose some weight, and is a very scary process. And that I want to, it's like June or July of the first year, I had gone down to Virginia to see a friend of mine, and I remember talking to a gal here in town, and I asked her, I'm like, do you think I should still go? I'm like, I bought the ticket before the fire even happened, and she's like, just go. You need to get out of here. I'm like, okay. So I went, and I had a great time in that. But as soon as as soon as we're done taking like pictures and like that, that's when I would just start bawling and she was like one person that I could still call to this day and just start crying. And she won't stop me. But when I got back, I had this letter in the mail. He called me the worst type of mother around because, and saying I was disgraced to my children because I went and I had fun with a couple friends, and it floored me, and I don't remember leaving the house, and that I would not go anywhere. I would go to work. I would go to the store if I had to get something, and I would be home. I didn't go anywhere. And it was like, if this is what people want to see, is me tucked away, hiding, not letting anyone see me out in public, then that's what I'm going to do. And
wow.
It just, and then, I turned that around too and said, you know what? I really don't care what this one person thinks, because they didn't have the nerve to even sign this letter. And that they sent it completely anonymously.
Is that right?
Yeah. And
I'm so sorry.
It just kind of, like, I just don't get it. A lot of people knew that, like before this fire that I was talking about, well, it's only so many months until I get to go to Virginia and see my friend again, and we hadn't seen each other in like 15 years. And so, I want to say it was like a month or two after the kids died, her dad had died. That completely unexpectedly, and she called just screaming into the phone, and I just sat there and listened, and we cried together. And she didn't want anyone else, she wanted me there, and I couldn't just get on a plane and get down there at that time. And so, I told her I'll be there as soon as I can get there, which was, the planned vacation. And we didn't do a whole lot while we were down there, and we went to a couple places and walked around a lot, but it was more, she needed me and I needed her.
Yep.
And
yep. I want to apologize on behalf of the anonymous writer who shamed you for doing something that brought joy to your heart. What part of that makes sense? I mean,
None of
shame
it.
on her.
That's exactly what I thought was, shame on
Yeah,
you for even doing
yeah,
that. When,
yeah, and
I just
yeah,
lost my children and you're calling
yeah.
me, this
You
horrible
know,
mother and that. And it just kind of made me want to go, screw you.
well, the truth is that the journey is so unique for each of us. We have to do it our own way. So we have no right to tell somebody else how and what they should or shouldn't be doing. None of us have that right. And so I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart that you received such a letter. And, you know, forgiveness is something that you can extend to her because one day she'll understand. One day when she loses someone she loves, it won't be the same journey as yours, but she'll realize what a grave mistake and judgment she made. And it's important that I'm angry on your behalf. And so I need to forgive her for doing such a thing. And in the meantime, you just need to do you. Put your horse blinders on and you walk your journey intuitively. Your soul will guide you, your children will guide you, and follow your heart. So if you want to go out and embrace moments of joy, it doesn't mean that it's erased the pain in your heart. It's not a cure. But what you do learn is that the heart can hold joy the same time as sorrow, and it balances the sadness, and it's critical to your overall well being. So go find joy, go laugh. Laughter is a powerful healing modality. Do what you need to do to balance the sadness in your heart and make apology to no one.
Yep.
So, but it just kind of goes to show that in our culture, in our society's view, there are some, not many, most people have hearts full of compassion. And judging from all the comments you're getting in tonight's show, you're surrounded with love and prayers and compassion. And that's a beautiful thing for me to witness. And I'm grateful. But there are a few people who feel like they have the right to judge someone else. And that's just something they have to work through. We can't fix that for them, nor should we try. But what you can do is not take those kinds of statements into your heart because they don't belong there. They don't belong to you at all.
Yeah, I came across the letter the other day and I just kind of looked at it and tossed it aside and just kind of, I just, I let it go. And that because it doesn't define who I am. I decided to go back to college. Granted, it was kind of on a whim, and I was only half serious at the time when I applied. And that, but when I got the letter saying that I was accepted, I was like, oh crap. So I had to actually do this, and it's like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. It was like, oh, well, now I'm graduating in May. I guess I did it. And there's still days when I'm going, I'm never going to use this,
But it's something that you were able to turn your pain into purpose and do. And again, you never know whose heart you touched along the way through your classes. I'm willing to bet that quite a few of your teachers and students knew your journey. And maybe they did
that were very surprised to.
Yeah.
My one class just last semester, we had to do a presentation on something that we're passionate about. And I was kind of dumbfounded because I'm like, what am I passionate about? And I had to, it took me a good week to figure out what exactly I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I want more people to know that they need to have smoke alarms like everywhere in their house, carbon monoxide detectors, in certain, areas in their house, and that. And so that's what I did my presentation on, was to bring awareness of how badly you need this. And in my presentation, I ended it on the slideshow with a picture of my kids' caskets and a picture of the rubble, and that. And there was one student that he had to leave the classroom. I don't know if he was tearing up or what, but he did have to leave the classroom for a few minutes, and that. And no one was able to speak, and that. In my mind, I'm going, I don't know if this is a bad thing or a good thing.
I'm going. You just saved lives that day.
And that, but it just kind of, I talked to
You
my
saved
teacher about it first, and I asked her, I'm like, can I do this? And she goes, are you really, passionate about this? I'm like, I am. I want people to know they need to have this, because we didn't have that. We had one smoke alarm in the entire trailer, and it was at the very back of the house, and it wasn't working. And we didn't bother to ever, replace the battery.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
So, we can't.
But I bet every person.
Our lives.
I bet every person in that class went home and bought a smoke detector or batteries for their smoke detector. And you saved lives that day. So that's incredible. Incredible. Before we go, I've got 2 questions left for you. The first one is, what do you want people to know about your children?
Well, I miss them a lot, I can tell you that. They were and still are the light of our lives. And that, going back to college, that's something that they don't get to do, and so I'm doing it for them. And it just kind of, we miss them dearly. I would give anything to have them back with me. And it just, they were such a joy, and that everyone was always smiling when they were around. And that, and just looking at pictures, I have a picture of them staring at me in the face right now. And that, and they loved life. And that, and it just kind of, they didn't ask for anything. They loved being able to earn their own stuff. And that, and I really miss them, because we had a built-in, lawnmower. Our oldest son was always mowing the lawn for us, so I had to learn how to do that again. And that, but they were really a joy, and I miss them a lot.
Yeah. So my final question for you is, what is your definition of hope today?
Honestly, I don't know. There's days when I don't think I have any hope. And then there's other days when, every day when I get up, I tell myself I can do this. I can and I will do this. And that, and, we have some kids' last school pictures and hanging in the hallway. Every morning I say goodnight, every morning I say good morning to them, and every night I say goodnight. And I blow kisses to them, and that, and I just keep telling myself that I can do this, because they would want me to do this.
And you're doing a beautiful job of this. I know it's not easy, but you are a light in the dark for others who have lost multiple children. I know that you don't want to be, and I know that you would give anything to have your 3 kids back. And I don't have the answers as to why such a horrific thing has happened to you and Brandon. And to say I'm sorry, just it doesn't even begin to scratch the depth of my compassion for you. But I want you to know, even stronger than my compassion for you is my admiration for you. I see you as someone who somehow gets out of bed every day. Somehow you've even gone back to school. And somehow you're earning your degree. How cool is that? So when you're brave, you make other people brave. And that's a beautiful gift. Thank you for joining me tonight. And for all you viewers out there, thank you from the bottom of my heart for surrounding Dawn and her husband Brandon with love, hugs, and prayers, especially as they come upon this next week. Not just today and every day, but over this next week as they face another painful anniversary. It's a day full of sadness that we can't describe. And to be held in prayer and that sacred space held for us means more than you'll ever know. And thank you for doing that for Dawn. And so viewers, join us next week as we talk with Uma Gurish about cultural differences and grief. Uma lost her mother, and she was born in India. She now lives in Chicago, and we're going to talk about it. And she's co-founder of the International Grief Council and an award-winning author, and she has a lot to share. So I'm really looking forward to having her on the show. Same time next week. We'll see you there. And Dawn, I am wrapping you in love, hugs, and prayers tonight. Thanks so much for being my guest.
Thank you.
You have a good night. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.